The Dallas Cowboys absolutely dominate the New York Giants on primetime. What does this mean for this Cowboys team going forward? All that and more in this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your
Locked
daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, it's been a little bit since we got to enjoy a week one win. Did you enjoy this one?
I sure did. I mean, it's also been a little bit since we got to open the season with playing the Giants. So I think maybe those things are more correlation than more causation than correlation. So this was incredible. I was telling you before the show, and I was telling Peter when I hopped on the Locked On Sports show. I just spent the whole game cackling, like just laughing. You know, it was incredible fun to watch, and it was an ugly situation in the sense that it was raining and just gross and wet, and the field was terrible. But it was a lot of fun to watch as a Cowboys fan.
So I gotta say, when I saw some of the pregame stuff with the rain, I was thinking, oh no, this typically bad weather helps kind of level the playing field a little bit. It keeps games closer. Not the case here. In fact, I think it actually helps show the talent differential even more. I mean, it was mind-blowing how much faster and quicker and more polished the Cowboys looked on both sides of the ball. And let's do just a quick review here. If you, for some reason, didn't miss this game, the Giants opened up the game with the ball, drove it right down the field. The Cowboys blocked the field goal, took it back to the house for a touchdown. If you had Noah Igbenogany as your first touchdown score of the year, you are a liar. Yeah.
You're a liar.
From that point on, the Cowboys defense just feasted. And we kind of knew this was going to be the case this whole year. Like if the Cowboys can get into one of these positive game scripts where they're ahead and now they can just tee off on quarterbacks, they're going to be really hard to stop.
Yeah. And they just showed it, I mean, honestly, it was a defensive performance for the ages. Honestly. I mean,
I don't remember anything like this.
I can't remember. Cowboys were the only team to shut out their opponent this week in the opening week. I can't remember the last time shutting out an opponent on the road. In prime time, like on the first week of the season, that's pretty crazy. So, I mean, honestly, like I think we aren't going to have a lot of answers about certain things about the offense, but I think that we can definitely say is that this defense is exactly what we thought it was going to be. Throwing the football on them is going to be a terror. And I think, even Gilmore showing how much his addition is going to mean to the Cowboys. It was absolute hell for the Giants every single time they knew they had to throw the football. And I think I can only think of maybe one or two passing plays that had positive results for them, maybe the entire game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of game we're talking about. It was absolutely historic. It was unbelievable.
We're going to talk about the Cowboys offense a little bit later, but the story of this game is the defense. And I want to spend a lot of time on this unit. Before we talk about individual players, just some stats for you. The Giants had 37 dropbacks in this game and had a net total of 63 passing yards.
Wow.
63 passing yards. They averaged, I think it was like 2.3 yards per play, which is absolutely insane. And that's with the Cowboys basically resting and rotating a lot of their starters for the entire second half. Like they could have really poured things on if they wanted to keep Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence in this game. But like even the second string, defense for the Cowboys was unbelievable. I want to talk about Micah. We will get to him in a second, but just really quickly, because I don't want to forget about a couple of these guys. Deron Bland, Wanye Thomas, and Marquise Bell, three of the young defensive backs for the Cowboys. I thought all three of those guys were absolutely incredible here.
Yeah, Wanye, I mean, absolutely blocking the kick, basically starting this whole thing, right? With an incredible move inside on the wing guy, just hopped over his block and then made a clean block of the kick. And then if I'm not mistaken, on the very next play, on offense, right? He was the guy that made a huge stop on defense. So yeah, I mean, just really, really shining out. And then Marquise Bell, we saw a couple different times. I mean, he caused one of the fumbles, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. He was just all over the field making tackles and doing a really good job. Bland, obviously, taking the assisted knock away from Trayvon Diggs back to the house. How many? I was just gonna think. I forgot to look it up before we got in. Deron Bland has been in the league for 2 years. I think he started like 7 games or something like that. How many defensive touchdowns does this guy have already?
Quite a few. Now I could be off by a game or two, but I believe Deron Bland now has 6 interceptions in his last 10 games. I believe.
That's unbelievable, and at least 2 defensive touchdowns, right? I mean, maybe more. So, yeah, I mean, just the young, and I really think that highlights something that I wanted to talk about. We heard about all off season, and honestly, I retweeted the NFC East preview with some of the other hosts. The disrespect they're showing, and to be honest,
a little bit of disrespect.
Well, listen, that's fine, right? But I think this is a great example of why they were disrespecting us, because these are all guys that we've grown in-house. They're not like superstars necessarily, draft picks or whatever. These are folks that are undrafted free agents or low-round draft picks that we've developed into maybe not superstars on their own right yet, though I think Bland's headed that direction, but at least to the point where these guys are better than just contributors. They're plus starters they're key contributors. They're plus starters that are in our backup line. And so when you can send waves of guys, look, I think one of the most impressive things that I think we cannot lose, right, was that after the first drive, when admittedly something we should talk about, the Giants were able to run the ball down our throat for a while. Yeah. But the Cowboys were able to respond with the block field goal touchdown. And then the key thing was the Giants got the ball right back, and the fear is that what are they going to do? They're going to run the ball right down their street because the defensive line is tired. No, because the Cowboys were able to put out their second defensive line, and they were able to take care of business and and force a 3-and-out or force them to get rid of the ball. I think it was another turnover on the second drive, and that just shows you what it's like having waves of defenders to be able to come in, even if they're tired. You're getting an opportunity to just wear offenses out with pass rush. Guys coming after from all angles, after no matter who it is, what level of the defense it is.
I was watching the game with my brother tonight, and I told him, I said, last year Donovan Wilson was arguably like their second or third best defender in the 2 games against the Giants. Wanye Thomas basically started for him tonight, and you didn't notice a drop off. They're going to get Donovan Wilson back probably next week, if not the following week. He's a really good player, but you've got so much depth that you don't have to rush a guy like him back. Jordan Lewis, who only got to practice a little bit this week, he's basically a healthy scratch because you've got Deron Bland, you've got Stephon Gilmore, who played the slot, which we'll get to him in a second.
Yeah, I mean, wow.
I mean, he was absolutely unbelievable. But you're right. The story of this game for me is the depth. Like having a Chauncey Golston have 2 really nice sacks at the end of the game, having Sam Williams just create havoc. Dorrance Armstrong had unofficially 2 sacks, I think. 2 sacks and 8 pressures on 16 snaps, which is bonkers, right? Like
that's crazy.
Unbelievable how good their defense was and how deep it was. But the story on defense is the guy that wears number 11, Micah Parsons. I want to talk about his dominant performance next. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's so easy to create a job post. You can do it in a matter of seconds. All you have to do is add your job and then the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on the candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That is linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. Landon, we are breaking down the Cowboys 40-0 win over the Giants. And the player of the game has to be Micah Parsons. I'm going to let you have the floor. Talk to us about Parsons.
Well, I think we got to talk about both. I mean, it's the combination of Parsons with Quinn, and because the way that Quinn continues to use Parsons is just masterful. You know, you saw him obviously on the outside winning naturally as Micah Parsons does with explosiveness in his hands and just a freaky natural ability. But you also saw him moving in as a linebacker and exploiting the young interior of that offensive line. I mean, I think they struggled across the offensive line, you know, left to right. Even Andrew Thomas was getting some offsides penalty. He was scared of Parsons, but they were exploiting the inside of those interior three really well by bringing Parsons inside as a linebacker, having him play as a zero technique at times and looping guys around, which is a lot of what we saw in training camp too. You saw guys like Osa and other guys playing on the outside, looping back around with Parsons playing like kind of a 0-3 technique and then just twisting them off of each other. And I just think that you saw how versatile it is and that you can't hide any of your offensive linemen because the boogeyman's coming to get you. And basically, if you spend 2.5 guys, which is what I saw at different times, blocking Micah Parsons, that's when you're going to free up Dorrance Armstrong and Fowler and Oso Digizua, who I think had 2 sacks tonight.
Yep,
and you know, just other guys are going to get free because there's just too many good. Like there's one, you know, kind of generational guy on this defense, but there's also like one other excellent defensive lineman and 3 other very, very good defensive linemen.
Yep.
So you can't just, you know, spend all your resources blocking Parsons and blocking Lawrence because there's at least 2 other guys that are coming that are pretty darn good as well.
I mean, he was unreal, right?
You
could see him on the sideline. He looked like he was kind of mad that he wasn't able to play more.
Yeah.
But he was dominant. And I saw a stat from the NFL. He had, I believe, 16 rushes in the first half. 8 of them, he was doubled. And he got a pressure on 50% of those 8 times. He's just unreal.
That's
and you're
unbelievable.
Seeing, and we talked about this as offseason, right? If Micah Parsons wants to make the leap from an elite pass rusher to a generational player, you got to find ways to make your teammates better, to make the defense better.
Yeah.
And you saw that tonight, taking on double teams and still getting pressure, being able to play different spots. So it opens up opportunities for Dorrance Armstrong to expose a different matchup. This is what I wanted to see from Micah Parsons to take the next step. It's not sack totals. It's not having a 19 sack year. It's about finding ways to be truly dominant on the field. And tonight was a perfect example. He had 1 sack, and the Cowboys, this is the most dominant performance I think I've seen from a defender in a long time.
It's not you getting the stats. It's not your teammates getting the stats. It's you and your teammates getting the stats. And that's the level he's gone to, right? It's like he's getting his, and then he's making sure everybody else is getting theirs as well.
Yep.
And it's not one or the other. It's both. And that's just the level of talent that we're dealing with here. And then again, like you can't say it without, you know, again, and we got to talk about it. The back end was absolutely masterful.
Yeah.
You know, Trayvon Diggs and Gilmore showed why they're one of the best combos in all of football.
On Gilmore, just really quick, I couldn't help but kind of just think, like, how excited do you think Stephon Gilmore is to play in this defense? He gets to play with a pass rush that is insane. He turns 33 in a couple days, but this has got to be like the most fun he's ever going to have on defense because he's going to go up against number 2 and number 3 receivers, and he knows that the quarterback has got to get rid of the ball quickly. I was wondering how long it was going to take for him to make an impact in this defense, and the answer was like a quarter before you saw him be an awesome player.
Eventually, you're going to have to throw his way, and he responded by, I'm pretty sure he had something. He had the interception, but didn't he also have like 2 other pass deflections?
Well, there was a sequence in the third quarter where he had a pass breakup on 3rd and 4th down on back-to-back, and it's just like, this is going to be so easy and so much fun for him.
Yeah, so he had an interception. I just looked it up, an interception and 3 pass deflections total. Like but that just shows you, like, he's going to get targeted heavily because teams are not going to throw digs. And so this is an opportunity. Like, this is the best. Like, there's a reason he came here. Obviously, he wanted a chance to win, but this is the best chance. Like, you're going to go against lesser competition, and you're going to get targeted more, so you're going to get more opportunity to get the ball. And he's shown that that's what he's looking for. So, I couldn't be more excited about, the things that we knew that were good, right? Like that we confirmed were good. The pass rush and the coverage, especially in combination with each other, it's just so suffocating to an offense that it's no one, even as someone with a running quarterback and a very, very good running back, they could not keep up and they couldn't do anything. They couldn't convert. They couldn't play offense, basically.
We're going to talk about the offense here in a second, but I will say the only thing that just makes me a little bit nervous going forward is I think if they go up against a team that can really run the ball, I still think they're going to be able to have success against the Cowboys. Like, it's still a weakness. Now, Dallas is hopeful that Mozzie Smith will get better in that area, and they have Jonathan Hankins, but it does feel like if there is one weak spot with this defense, it's the ability to stop the run and stop quarterbacks from making plays with their legs. I do worry about that a little bit.
I will say if yes, specifically a team that is going to be able to run the football well and then consistently stop our offense from scoring, then you could put more pressure on this defense than you would like to. But I also expect them to improve on the run, especially in better conditions, and also as the year goes on, as you get better.
And it's why, I mean, the two other teams in the conference that looked really good today, the Eagles and the 49ers, they both do those things really well. It's why really those are the top 3 teams in the conference, is because they can put you in really uncomfortable situations. The Cowboys are obviously going to be able to do that to a lot of the other teams in the NFL this season. Landon, let's talk about the Cowboys offense, which didn't have to do a lot in this game, but they did it anyways. We will get to them next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is so easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props to futures bets and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer that you won't want to miss. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. All right, Lena, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys offense. If you look at the numbers, it wasn't great. They only had, I'm looking at it right here, like 265 yards. But we were talking pre-show. The offense did basically everything that you wanted them to do. They sustained long drives. They didn't turn the ball over, and they really never punted the ball until like the fourth quarter. I thought the offense, for the most part, played a really flawless game.
Yeah, and again, I think the elements is something to add in here. So I think it had an effect on their ability to kind of be crisp in the passing game, and that obviously had that effect on both sides. I think on the Giants side, you just didn't get to see it very much because most of the time Daniel Jones was running for his life. But considering the fact that you didn't see that on the Dak side, in fact, I think, did he even get sacked once night?
No.
So the fact that he didn't sustain any sacks, I think, first of all, bodes extremely well for Tyron Smith.
That was an incredible story for me. He
had an incredible night against Kayvon Thibodeau, and I think that's noteworthy because Thibodeau is one of the better young pass rushers in the NFL. And I think that that's incredible. What the Dallas interior offensive line was able to do was also incredibly impressive, considering you were without Tyler Smith. So you had to plug in Chudoba, who I thought actually had a pretty good game. I noticed him in the run blocking. On the whole, played fine. And then at certain points, you even were playing with Awesome Richards playing left tackle and TJ Bass at left guard. So and I think Brock Huffman even got some snaps, if I'm not mistaken. So the fact that the Cowboys were able to hold up no matter who was in there, and they didn't always run the ball exceptionally well. but they, they still averaged, I think, over 4 yards a carry and had 133 yards something rushing. The run game was actually something that was a positive for the Cowboys overall. I think, if anyone on this offense or any unit on this offense deserves the most praise, I think it's the offensive line, to be honest.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, you don't want Chuma Edoga to be a long-term solution, but he did show you that he can help you get through a game, and not only get through a game, but you can run your offense, right?
Yeah.
They're going to have some really tough matchups, even in the next month or so, against some really good defensive lines.
Next week.
Including the Jets next week, where the Jets are loaded with pass rushers. You're going to have some offensive line depth because injuries are going to happen throughout the year. I thought Udoga played really well. I thought Tyron Smith played well. Thought Terrence Steele played pretty well in his first game back from the injury. The other thing I'll say about the offense is when the Cowboys get on a field that's not raining and there's not like an inch and a half of rain, Brandon Cooks is going to absolutely eat this offense. Drew a penalty down the field, but you saw in that 4th and short, right? Like just gets off the line so quickly, gets the first down, takes on the contact. Like he is going to be such a great fit with Dak and CeeDee Lamb and the rest of the offense.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of become old hat because we've talked about it and then we've been through training camp. But just to kind of circle back, now that it's week 1 and we're getting to actually see them play, you couldn't have higher grades on the Cooks and Gilmore additions in this offseason because clearly they've been huge for the Cowboys even so far.
Yeah. Just a couple other notes really quickly. The tight ends struggled in the passing game. Jake Ferguson had 2 drops. Peyton Hendershot had a drop that would have been a touchdown. Ferguson's 1 drop was right inside the red zone. I think the Cowboys might have punched that one in. I thought the tight end struggled a little bit in the passing game, but not as blockers. They were absolutely phenomenal as blockers in this one.
Yeah, the blocking looked way better than it did last year on the edge, and that's really, really encouraging. And I'm, look, it was a bad night for the tight ends. I'm not ready to declare that a trend. Both of those players, I mean, especially Ferguson, has been a very efficient receiver through most of the rest of, especially his rookie year. So I imagine if he gets an opportunity to play in a game that, isn't a monsoon, that he might get have a higher efficiency rate when the ball's thrown his way.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to help the offense overall too. I think that was a major part of the problem with the passing offense is that you had high percentage targets that usually you convert on that, either, fell an inch short because it fell off the fingertips or just you weren't able to convert for whatever reason you normally would.
Yeah. And there's just some week 1 rust. I mean, you saw on a couple of throws from Dak and it's fine. I mean, I just think for the most part, you're going to see some contrarian out there saying the Cowboys offense was bad in week 1. That just wasn't the case at all. I will say, and I know the numbers won't back it up necessarily, but I thought Rico Dowdle looked really good in this game.
Yes.
And it seems like he is going to be the right complement to Tony Pollard. You can see how physical of a runner he is. I really like what I saw from Dowdle. And I like that Kevontae Turpin got 3 carries in this game.
I love it. I did too. It was great. I mean, honestly, the whole usage of that's, and it's what we've talked about, right? Like it's this mix and match of of mostly Pollard, right? You're going to get the guy that's the spellback is Dowdle, right? And then you're going to have like a hodgepodge of different carries you give to Turpin. I'm assuming that Vaughn's going to get more gadgety kind of carries than he did tonight.
I was so bummed that they called that timeout, that Wink Martindale called a timeout when the Cowboys were on 3rd and goal or whatever, because
I wanted to
they were going to give the ball to Deuce.
Yep. And I think that's the thing, is that you're going to see more of that, like kind of, a mixture of that, of the third running back being a whole bunch of different guys getting carries in a whole bunch of different ways. And especially the jet sweep stuff, that was really effective. I thought it kind of helped broadening the horizontal boundaries of the run game and opening things up in the middle. Because you saw after some of those reverses worked, you saw the holes opening up inside a lot more, which I think was really, really helpful.
I think the Cowboys are going to be able to run the ball. And I would assume Tyler Smith is going to be back next week. Maybe they'll hold him out one more week just to see. But once they get Tyler Smith back in there, they're going to really be able to run the ball, stay balanced in offense, utilize more play action. And I think once you get this offense on turf, which it will be next week against the Jets, they're going to be so explosive and so effective. So really excited about that side of the ball, despite them not doing a ton in this game.
Yeah.
But again, we're nitpicking in a 40-0.
You know what it is that we just want to say that we understand that the offense didn't look like an offense that scored 40 points on their opponents tonight.
Yeah.
But they did what they had to do in difficult conditions. It's not like they failed at really any points.
No.
We should mention that Aubrey missed his one extra point early, but after that was great kicking the football in what was terrible weather. And I think that, there was a little bit of nitpicky stuff that we think a lot of it was kind of conditional, but overall they did what they had to do in order to win a game that was handed to them by the defense. They didn't fumble it away or anything.
No, Mike McCarthy's got to be like very happy with the way that this game went. Like you dominate the Giants, but there's still stuff to go back in the film room and clean up and fix and get ready for next week when you're going to be playing another really good team, including a guy that's been a little bit of a boogeyman for you in Aaron Rodgers, which we will make sure that we preview that game all week long. But we want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every day. Every day is on Tuesday. We're going to do some of our all 22 film review, some questions. So make sure you guys tune in for that. We've got a busy show this week. We've got a crossover show on Thursday. We'll get you ready for the game on Friday. So make sure that you are downloading the Locked On Cowboys podcast wherever you get your podcast. We are free and available on all platforms. Go check out Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm sure we're going to be talking about this game all week on Twitter. You can follow me at Marcus_Mosher. Enjoy your Victory Monday, and we'll see you right back here again tomorrow.